Hey, good morning, folks. Let me check my signal here to see if we're live. We're going to do some artwork this morning. Let's bring my microphone in close here so we get the sounds are good. And checking our mic check. 1, 2, 3. And check. Yeah, that's a solid signal. Cool. All right, let's drop that out of the way. Let's post the link to the social medias. I'll be done in just a moment here for everybody, but if you're catching us in the future, you are welcome to skip ahead probably about a minute and we'll be done with our updates and announcements and all the blah-de-blahs. So let's see, I can still hear a little bit of microphone there. I think I can snidge down the volume just a tig to get it out of the way. There, very good. All right, cool. So let's see here. Introductions. My name is Phil Kearney. Hey guys, I create role-playing games. I illustrate them and I publish them online. I've been focusing my attention on Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. I've been creating content for 5e since 2017 here on the DMsGuild. And let's see, I've been DMing since '87. I've been an Eberron enthusiast since 2003-ish, I think. Yeah, and I've been a freelance illustrator since 1999. So, but I've never actually created an adventure. So, being that I love Eberron, and that is a DMsGuild only IP setting, then I decided that I should just go ahead and build one. So, Crystals of Mabar is for 4 to 5 characters, level 7 to 8. Fun factoid with Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition 2024, the XP that you need for the strength of encounters, whether easy, moderate, or deadly, it's within about 300 experience points at each point. Like 64, it's like 6,400 XP for 4 8th level characters to clear a deadly encounter versus I think it's like 6,800 for 5 characters of 7th level to clear a deadly encounter. So the XP amount is like within 5 or 10% of each other at the different levels. So I really like the alteration of the recalculating that we now have for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition using the 2024 mechanics over the 2014. And well, hey Uchi, how you doing? We just started playtesting to that point. On Monday we had our first playtest. And the XP calibration system is working pretty good. You can just calculate how much experience points you're supposed to have per character, and then set the difficulty of it. That's the amount of XP per creature, per character in the encounter, and then you just add up all the little monsters and the experience points that each monster is worth until you hit that number or less. So it was very, very smooth, incredibly easy to build. I think 2024 has honestly, even though they do absolutely nothing to encourage it, I think 2024 has is doing really good for increasing, making dungeon crawls just easier to do. So just to sum up, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon for notifications of when we're live in the future. We're here 10 times per week, Monday through Friday in the morning like this, doing artwork. Mondays, Tuesdays, and Friday at lunchtime, we do design work. On Thursday and Saturday, we also do design. There. So let's keep doing artwork. What's up? Oh no, dude. No, you're gonna be there. You're gonna be there on Monday, right, Uchi? For anyone that doesn't know, Uchi's one of our playtesters, but he got locked into work BS on Monday, so he missed the first session. But it's great. So the way that the sessions, the way that the campaign is working is you can delve as far as you want until the end of the session, and then you back out for a long rest. So every session we're going to go in fresh and just attack monsters, because the monsters don't give you any experience points. Traps don't give you any experience points. Conversations and exploration give you 0 experience points. The only thing you get is treasure. So monsters have, like, there was like a bunch of healing potions and a magic sword on on some of the monsters that some of the well-equipped orcs that the team killed. And but the walls in this ancient temple, there was ribbons. There was like all this silver leaflet that was still hanging on the wall over these different motifs of these depictions of worship and stuff for their snake gods. So that's a pain in the ass, but probably not productive. But it certainly denotes or implies that there is actual like precious metal inside of this ancient place. If they wanted to take time to scrape silver off of the walls, okay, you guys can scrape silver off the walls. You will eventually accumulate X amount of gold pieces, or therefore experience points worth of wealth by wall scraping, because they are legit. It's not like you're breaking doors down and trying to sell rivets and hinges to blacksmiths to accumulate additional experience points. Because back in second edition, in first edition, we would have, how shy are we on experience? Fuck, we're like 50 XP short. Is there a barn we can break down somewhere? It's like, no, it's not mercantile wealth that you're gaining that gives you experience points. It's risking your life in the reward and the rewards that you gain for the effort. That's where the treasure comes from. So like if you run a business, that business doesn't generate experience points for you, though it certainly does generate gold for you. It's not the same thing. You can't just invest in experience points. Although the Bastion system that I'm developing for 5e does have a system for gaining higher ranks of proficiency through renown invested into the industry that you're operating inside of. So like if you're a trade guild and you have a trade specialist, each successful or each attempted trade transaction that this merchant performs, like at minimum in 10-day blocks. So once per 10 days, you can have one trades check, and every time you do that, you gain 1 point of renown. And the renown system works the exact same way. As you would expect it to for like Ravnica or Piety and stuff like that. You perform a task, you gain a point. You have to gain as many to gain a point. You have to climb your way up. One mission gives you 1 point of renown. 2 more missions, 3 total, gives you 2 points of renown. 3 more missions, which is 6 missions total, gives you 3 points of renown. And it stacks like 3, 15, 27, 39, and 51 points of renown. So like to get the 51 points, you had to have crawled your way from 1 point to 50 and then get another 51 points. So it ends up being like a couple thousand experience, it's like 1,500 experience points or something like that, or 1,500 trade missions you have to go on to gain 5th rank of mastery, which is like a +6 proficiency bonus effectively. But 10-day blocks, that's 10,000 days. That's a whole Tool album. That's 27 years. But you could see over the course of 27 years of building your reputation as a merchant, you can acquire these like epic tier level deals that you can perform, like trading with an ancient dragon, getting him to give up his dragon horde in exchange for whatever it is that you're promising them. It opens up interesting avenues of gameplay, but mostly plot hooks. The Bastion system that I've been building, and I'm pontificating about it right now because it's on my mind, honestly, and the faster I can turn off my brain, the better my artwork's gonna get. So I'm gonna ramble a bit here. But Thursday night, tomorrow night, we're going to probably spend 3 hours on the Bastion system. We're converting it into, instead of just being, here's a bunch of perks that you get, we're decoupling the benefits that you get from facilities and making those things that you invest resources into to sustain, kind of like auras. We're basically making Bastion benefits like concentration effects that you invest. Like you gain a mana pool basically for your. Of course, you get a mana pool. It's me. Your guild or your Bastion gets a pool of Bastion resources, which is a mana pool that you can either spend to perform ability checks to accomplish things as an organization, or you invest the points to sustain a feature that you get from a facility. Like once you get to the 5th rank of having proficiency in the Empower activity, you can generate and sustain a demi-plane, which is one of the features you just automatically get in the Bastion system. Well, by giving it a resource system, your team can now go out and perform missions either to gain experience points, magic loot, raw cash, or resources for your guild and your resource for your guild can provide magic items, it can provide gold for you, and it generates plot hooks for you to gain experience points. So you can build campaigns with a Bastion as its core engine of generating reasons for your characters to have adventures. I've been running this since February with my home table, and it's fucking awesome. They have tasks that they want to perform with their guild. If they succeed at the task, they advance their goal, and it creates new opportunities for them to engage with different NPCs or rival guilds or whatever it is that they're trying to achieve. But if they fail the die roll, it creates complications. It becomes you haven't succeeded at your goal yet because of this complication. So if you can clear the complication, you can proceed with succeeding at your task. It's just been delayed. So that's it's a really fun format. It's a really, really fun format of play. So the book that we're building currently on Thursdays and Saturdays is how to structure a campaign around that. What are all the mechanics? So right now we're bashing out and locking down the 2024 language for the mechanics on how to run your Bastion as a guild, and then from there we start layering in the complications. Like if you're attempting to craft a magic item and you fail the die roll, like these are really straight because they're crafting rules, so it's really straightforward. The way that we have it is you have a DC set, because they in the DMG 2024 they establish you've basically got 5 ranks of difficulty, right? You've got a base DC 10, 15, 20, 25, and 30. That's your first, second, third, fourth, and fifth rank. When your first level character is rolling a D20 plus 1 D4, you're going to have basically a plus 3 on average to your die roll of D10. Technically it's 10.5 is on average, but over here on a D4 it's also 2.5 average. So that you put those two things together, and you get an 11 here, a 2 here. That's 13, 14. So basically you get a plus 4. And if the DC is 10, that means you basically have a 2/3 chance of succeeding at first level. But as these things continue to ratchet up, this becomes a plus 6 here, and then it becomes plus 8, plus 10, plus 12 on average that these stats are rolling. So a plus 12 on a D20, that's a 27. You'll never succeed a DC 30 with an average plus 27 roll. But the variable is actually D20 plus 6, D20 plus 5 plus 1D12. So you can actually hit 37. You'll have a range anywhere from 7 to 37. And so a 30 is difficult, but you'll hit it about 1/4 of the time. So at the 5th level tier of play, if you're cracking out miraculous activities through your Bastion, chances are every time you succeed, you're going to have 3 new plot hooks. That's going to require your attention to succeed at that task. And depending on how epic that task is, it could take 10 or 100 days per try. So you can often speed up, like tasks either take 1 day, 10 days, or 100 days on it, typically. And then you can either invest more or less resources to make it happen faster or slower. So fun, super fucking fun. It's been really easy to build it. Right now we're just deconstructing all of the Bastion features that are in the DMG and rebuilding them with this investment system of decoupling the features, like the passive features that you get from the aura effect of investing resources into, like if the Bastion thing is supposed to come online at 9th level, that's 3rd rank, right? 1, 5, 9, 13, 17, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's half casting. It's half casting. It's so obvious. So that means that a 3rd rank guild or 3rd rank Bastion is operating as basically a 9th level character as far as ability checks are concerned, and therefore what passive abilities they can provide for you. If it's realistic that they could give you as a half caster a 3rd level spell, then you can have a resource that you're investing resources of your Bastion into a passive effect that duplicates a 3rd level spell of your choice, like scrying or something like that. Now you have an oracle in your Bastion that you can rely on to be able to perform scry or like divination. And as you gain rank, you have like legend lore at the higher end, which are things that are already in the Bastion system, but we're scaffolding them so that you can see a linear progression of this is why my Bastion is advancing, because I'm investing in these different skill sets that lets my organization perform these tasks. So like you can call on your teams like, yeah, I need you to research this dungeon that we found. I'm going to collect. I'll come back and collect that information from you. And so while you're en route to your guild, you're making lore checks and research rolls to see how much information you can gather about whatever your next objective is. So, like, you could, for instance, gain a number of inspiration points during that adventure that the team can use, equal to the tier of success that you hit. Like 10 is 1, 30 is 5. You could accumulate up to 5 additional inspiration points that you can just spend at any time to re-roll dice. So that simulates the heist mission of like doing your work and understanding where like if you're gonna knock down a casino, understanding like the defenses of the casino, like where's the gold kept, what kind of a lock does it have. That's what that kind of research can represent. And so if you don't succeed automatically when you encounter it, you'll have that research die that you can then spend basically as bardic inspiration or as a reroll to modify your die rolls. So that's one thing you can do. There's so much shit you can do with it, and then you just build out random tables or like complication tables based on the type of activities that the team is attempting to perform through the Bastion. The complications that you're going to have, harvesting grain to provide rations for a nearby community is going to have different complications than trying to craft a magic staff. So we want to differentiate what those activities are. So when you perform tasks, it feels like you're taking on different threats, and those threats in a procedurally built campaign, much like a hex crawl, it's revealing threats as they arise, and you don't get a threat to something until you fuck up something. It's like, oh crap, you could attempt to recruit a summon Fae spell, for instance. Your Bastion could recruit Fae to help like in tending a garden or something like that. But maybe your complication is that you pissed them off, and now they're starting to pull pieces of your Bastion into the Feywild. You're now getting a permeable barrier that can go into the Feywild, but now you also potentially have wandering monsters out of the Feywild to come bug your Bastion. So like maybe you'll have like a wandering monster. You'll have a D20 you'll roll, and on a 1 through 10, that's the day of your Bastion, like your 10-day Bastion turn. That's the day that a monster shows up and causes trouble. Roll random table. And then 11 through 20, nothing happens. So you've got basically a 50-50 chance of something wandering in from the Fae and fucking around with your team. Like, was it worth it? Well, how do we collapse that? I don't like that. I want to get rid of it. That just became your next plot hook. How do I get rid of this curse on my Bastion? So you can set the Bastion up to be threatened by things that you yourself set yourself up for by using it to make attacks. And that you can then control the type of adventures that you have. So, do you play or have you ever played with any Savage World fantasies? I know what Savage World is, but no, I've never actually played it. And that doesn't seem like a strong pose. I reckon something I'm ranting about here is probably relevant to Savage Worlds, or is it just a thing? Anyway, that Bastion stuff is what I do on Thursday and Saturday. So the documents is already on the share page. So go check out the previous stream. It's labeled in my. I have a playlist for it under the command series, and it's a recent video in the live streams. I'm just kind of squiggling stuff here a little bit, ain't I? I think I'm just about... I want to get to better position here. More undead. Basically a zombie swarm under the control of a Yugoloth is what we're attempting here. But I don't like the pose. Doesn't seem very strong to me. But 5e is such a good game engine. It's a shame that there's not more effort to use those mechanics to reintroduce these procedural, like these progressive campaign ideas. So it's a d6 roll on a roll of 1 to 2. It's a wandering encounter, 3 or 4. It's a confrontational encounter, 5 to 6. Oh, okay, that's pretty straightforward. Right on. I mean, this is all Beckme. All I'm doing is I'm translating the old basic edition expert box set, the BX box sets, and the stuff that was in the first edition player Dungeon Master's Guide. All I'm really doing is updating it for 2025, 2024 mechanics, and using just the logical progression. Oops, my coffee bumped my mouse. Just using the logical progression and the bounded accuracy system of what the D20 engine, the 5e engine is supposed to be, actually implementing it to build campaigns. And it's just this was always how Beckme ran. This is what BX is all about. So it's amazing. To be honest, this Beckme style of procedural generation is actually much easier to reproduce using AI tools than any other way you could approach creating adventures. I think if WotC really knew what they were attempting, like if they really knew what, and this sounds so fucking precocious of me because I'm just a guy, I'm not these designers, but a lot of the designers they have in there have as much or less experience than I do. So from that perspective, I don't necessarily think that the current WotC team has a real intimate knowledge of what the past game system engines were capable of doing. And if their goal really is to find ways of mining the past to produce AI content in the future, procedural generation, dungeons, and events is a very intuitive way to do that. You have to break it out of being ridiculously generic and boring, because AI is overly detailed about unconsequential details. That's the best way of putting it. Like, if this was a kitchen table, they would have an intense tablecloth. It's like the tablecloth's not the point. It's just we're just dressing a table. But you have this like color nightmare going on top of my table. I can't even see my food anymore. Like, that's what AI kind of does. It doesn't understand balance or restraint. It doesn't understand creating versus shutting down avenues of engagement and opportunity. It just doesn't. It like motive doesn't exist inside of the system. So everything that it designs is like vaguely specific about undefined details. It's weird. I know that sounds like a little bit of an oxymoron, but if you fuck around with an AI generating like random plot hooks and stuff for a little while, you're gonna get the gist of that. It's like, this is a lot of detail about absolutely no substance at all. It's all window dressing, but they don't even define what they're dressing, like what the window is looking at. It's all about like how fancy is the window, not understanding you're looking through the fucking window for something beyond it to have a description of. Anyway, like if you look at quote unquote adventures that it generates, it's just like a movie plot where you're moving from point of interest to point of interest to point of interest with zero random generation or chance of failure, or the decision that you make guiding you to a different choice, because it's not thinking ahead and how can it guide you into these different paths. It's just you take a step, okay, I'm going to randomly generate a response, a reaction to that decision, and it's not able to parse these things together yet. So I don't know how far away we are away from AI being able to do that stuff successfully, but I will say this. When an AI can DM as well as a DM can, they're fucking alive. There you go. That's my bold statement. Hey, what's up? You can take this stuff from... Yeah. Absolutely. But it requires translation, and there, like I said, there's like what we're doing here. There's a lot of really clever ways that you can use the 5e game engine to make all those really weird mechanics from first edition very intuitive to use. And the reason they were so weird is because all they cared about were statistics. They were more interested about we think there's like maybe a 15% chance that this might happen. So on a die roll of 1 of 6. This thing happens. A 50% chance it's going to be a 3 on a 6. Maybe it's like a weird 18%. Okay, great. Well, let's use a d20. That's a little bit more modular. So that's basically where that all came from. But then the bounded accuracy system replaces percentages with stacking bonuses towards higher DCs. So it becomes more reactive to the strength of your characters, which Pathfinder leaned into a lot, of having scaling tiers of mastery and stuff like that, which was a kind of a 3E idea initially, but it was just 3E had linear progression without any kind of bounded accuracy. Hey, right on, man. I appreciate that. I really appreciate that. Thank you. But yeah, it's a worthwhile conversation. I mean, obviously I believe, but I hope other people can start recognizing the value in that philosophy of game design or building building adventures. Because it only, like the dungeon crawl that we're in right now, I basically built it in 10 room modules, and every 10 rooms the motif changes. And so we can but you can mow through a few rooms, and then you'll probably hit the threshold of another region, so you'll be able to change the dressing. And it's once it's built, it kind of just runs itself. The only prep time you really need is structure, creatures, treasure, and dressing. Those are the 4 things. And dressing, like creatures, can include like traps and stuff. But that's the kind of, like, when you're populating your room, you want to have resting spots that don't have anything, so you have places to advance into and search, or retreat back to and rest, or to create strong points against monsters that, if you can get some tactical advantage, you can take them out, but they might be too difficult in strain, like in unfamiliar territory. Excuse me, I have the hiccups. So dungeon design is a lot of fun, but once you build the thing out, and like each 10 room segment might take like maybe 2 or 3 hours, and once it's in place, I can probably get 6 hours. I can probably get 6 hours of gameplay. So I'm basically getting a 2-to-1 return. Every hour that I put into dungeon game design, I basically get 2 hours worth of gameplay out of. So I can, if I'm going to run 4 games this month, I can put in a 6-hour shift, or 6 hours worth of shift over the course of like maybe a 2 or 3 hour block on a Saturday, for instance, and that will feed the dungeon for another month. So I can basically spend a little free time on a weekend, and then as it sits in the back of my head, it starts to, like, details start to feed in. It's like, oh, it'd be cool if these 2 things interacted with each other, or if this thing that's coming down the pipe, maybe I can hint at that earlier on. And so as the dungeon grows, it becomes more and more. It lives a little. It starts to take on a life. It starts to gain life. And like way back when a dungeon master would literally build their own mega dungeon, and then they would West March people through it. Super fucking cool. Because they would have the same dungeon. It was like, this is my dungeon. And they would build it and continue to detail it, and it became more and more of, like, eventually it becomes like a dwarven forge. Like, this is my dungeon. And you've got like a 600 square foot room full of like a mega dungeon. that you can peel off pieces of as the team goes through it. Like that's the level of extravagance you could get into, and that's what they encouraged back in the 70s. Like make your own world, like these realms, and have people go through them and see how well they survive with it. And people that were good at it got more and more people wanting to show up and like, I want to run through your gauntlet. I hear your dungeon's horrible. I want to play it. Like I didn't start playing until '87, and I was just a kid, so I wasn't really ingrained into that culture. But that's what the old guard would describe. So that was like the benchmark that was set. Like this is quality gaming. You're creating these experiences that people feel like it's challenged. I love that Path of Exile 2 just came out. I'm a big PoE fan. But like the map, like the World Atlas is kind of has that same feel to me. Like you're creating these custom experiences to delve your team through to see how well can you survive the ideas that they came up with. And it's not very narrative. Like you basically come in with characters and maybe they have a backstory, but it's not relevant right now. We're trying to catch trolls on fire. I don't care whose heir you are or whatever. That was the big problem, quote unquote, with the very early editions of D&D, is that it was an escape room basically, and your characters were just control sticks for you to maneuver inside of this environment. And sure, there's stories, but those plots and stories that came up were the motives of the monsters and villains that you ran across in these dungeon environments. And the adventure was you figuring out, what are they trying to do? Do you encourage it or discourage it? And now, act accordingly. And then loot as much gold in the process as you can. So most of the time, the things that you discover are vile, so you don't feel bad about robbing them of their resources. Like it became it was very easy. Oh, wow, you're slaver cultists, and you are gathering all of these silver artifacts for you to be able to find. Okay, well, I'm just going to steal your silver artifacts and sell them. Now you don't have any money. What are you going to do? Can't support your slaves anymore? They're probably going to revolt. So like that was like the default, like that was the default stance of the very old D&D games. Create a vile villain that you won't have any compunctions about robbing, because the goal of the game is to fucking rob them. So let's create unambiguous, vile people that we feel comfortable or, in fact, cathartic about robbing from, and proceed. It wasn't until the Tracy Hickman, Wiesen Hickman came along that we started thinking about, well, why don't we have character arcs and narrative development? Is because that is antithetical to randomly generating stories that may or may not have anything to do with what you came to the table with. I didn't ask you to come to the table with anything. I just said, tell me what kind of a character are you playing, and as the story emerges, if there's things that are interesting to you, let me know and lean into it. So it was a very different vibe. Very, very different vibe. But it's so easy. It takes no effort to build these things, youngsters. But yeah, for the game, the old school first edition game was incredibly solid as a game. It's a great game. Like an action RPG, it's good. It's really fucking good. But theatrics take a back seat. And it's more about the vibe of the modern era is I want to express my individuality through my character and experience, and the way that WotC writes adventures, they're basically amusement park rides. So the game loop of modern Dungeons and Dragons is create a unique personality and describe to me how they react to the events that the DM narrates to you in their story. And after you respond to 4 scenes, you gain an experience level. That's basically Strixhaven. Like Magic the Gathering created an adventure, created a campaign setting, Strixhaven Curriculum of Chaos, and that is literally the game loop. It has virtually no substance at all, and this is a criticism. So there's so much potential in Strixhaven. Just the depth is insane, and I don't think the I know that WotC doesn't think that way, and it's a shame because they're striving to retain control of the narrative, but all they have is narrative. So it's weird, right? Ooh, I like this guy's face. That's great. I'm gonna give him a. Take that and shift it back. I like doing squad and like troop illustrations. I think they're a lot of fun. But I'm a big build an army sort of DM. So I like having swarms and squads, and most of my work deals with scale. But we're almost done with the first. There's 3 parts in the adventure, and then there's the appendix. And between all 4 of those, there's basically 25 pages per section. The appendices are just about done, so there's like 20 pages of those are done. The first 20 some odd pages of the first part are done, and I should have the forest cleaned up and finished by this weekend. So that'll just leave part 2 and part 3. Part 2 is the manifest zone with the cemetery, the flooded fort, and the gatehouse. And then part 3 is the underground facility. The underground facility has 14 unique rooms. The manifest zone has 8 in the cemetery. It has, I think, 6 at the flooded fort and 4 at the gatehouse. So that's like 16-ish plus the random encounter, the optional encounters as well. But there's not a lot. We're getting it whittled down. So we might see all of the text in the like 104 pages worth of adventure. We should potentially have the layouts all resolved and the text resolved for it. Potentially before the end of January, like maybe mid-January. God's willing, I'll have it clean. It takes time to dig through and reformat all of the text to fit each topic, only one topic per column. Or if you have multiple topics, like they all have, like you can't have if you have a topic that's so big that it spills across multiple columns, it has to break down into subcategories so that every column has bite-sized information that can be read in isolation and still inspire ideas or create energy for you. And it's just a sequence of all events from the very first step all the way through the conclusion, and all the variance that goes in between the different locations, breaking all of that down column by column. That is proving to be colossally difficult, and it's an amazing challenge. The Light of Xeraxis adventure that we put at the back end of the Spelljammer document that we built, I think is, if I had not spent like 2 months building that out, I don't know if I'd be able to do this one now. That was, I felt guilty about how long that Spelljammer book took to create, because this project basically got put on hold for a year while I did it. But the end result of having built that has given me the skill and confidence to be able to take on this task. And I didn't realize I would need that confidence. So yet again, God in reality is completely setting me up to succeed. And I am very, very thankful for that. So building these things is not only an opportunity for me to meditate empty brain space while I do all the illustrating. It's also, to me, in my world, this is a form of prayer, of creating. I can understand where dwarves come from by crafting items as a form of worship. I am pouring my heart and soul and creative energy and inspiration into these things that we build. with the hope that they inspire somebody else to have a spark of creativity in them to take these things in different directions and build their own campaigns with. In my world, in worship of my muse, it is probably the highest form of worship I can perform. And I'm really happy to be able to define my spiritual experiences as a human being in such a kinetic way. I have like a lot of empty brain meditation time, and that is essentially the core of what prayer, like real prayer is entering a meditative space to be able to connect to the deeper feelings that you have inside of yourself that drives your motives to be able to commune with what has become your God, and to develop that relationship and to be good with it. And artists, I think, and I've talked about this, so I'm not treading new ground, but I love talking about it, that how artists and athletes, I think more than anything else, have that experience of emptying their mind and having that flow state. Like art and sport are really the only two places where those things exist. And like you can get like bricklayers, for instance, if they get into a fast flow of laying down bricks onto a wall, they get into this flow state where the action is just moving and they can just observe the event happening. I used to do that with hay bales on the farm. I grew up on a ranch, and I'd toss hay bales and scoop shit, and just lugging hay bales off of a truck and then stacking it in the barn. The more you turn off your brain, the easier the task becomes, because you're not fatigued. It's not emotionally fatiguing to perform the task. It's physically fatiguing, but by turning off your brain, you don't resent the task. I resented the tasks when I couldn't turn off my brain. As soon as my brain turned off, it just became my body is appreciating the sensation of movement and effort. Effort drives human ingenuity and gratitude, and gratitude drives inspiration and worship. So it's really, I don't know, it's interesting. I say I don't know, but I mean this has been my experience that I specifically do know. But I don't know, as in I recognize I'm like hard riffing right now. Super hard riffing. And we're at 7:39, so I got about 20 minutes worth of riff left in me. So I'm just going to make the most of that time. Anyway. Uchi, you'll appreciate this since you'll be joining the playtest on Monday. The user error who's playing the thief in the party. The amount of gold that you get to start with is 200 plus your starting equipment. He's like, can I just cash this all out just as a lump sum of gold and spend it on whatever I want? It's like, yeah. You can have up to 200. You can have up to 2 common magic items or 1 uncommon magic item, and you can spend your gold however you want. So you got a bunch of gold. He got a bunch of potions and like oil flasks, things that he could use as a thief. The utilize action, that he'd be able to speed up his action economy to do more stuff during a round by using that exploit. But yeah, he picked up a wand of pyrotechnics, which has like 7 charges. It releases like this blinding flare, but it also, when you use it, it also has a thunder crack that can be heard up to 300 feet away. So they're in a dungeon, and there was some sort of monsters around the corner, and they didn't have a light source, so they couldn't get eyes on what it was. So he used the wand of pyrotechnics, and he kicked off a flare. It blinded the monsters for a second, which gave them the advantage to dive in on them. But it also woke the entire dungeon up. So that was about 45 minutes away from the end. So by the time they cleaned up the monsters and looted their bodies, they're like, yeah, this whole dungeon is just screaming. Let's get the fuck out of here. So they left the dungeon and ended the session. And so the way that it's formatted, again, it says that at the end of every session, you'll leave the dungeon. Or if you've gotten deep enough into the dungeon to secure a room as a safe house, then you can take your long rest in the safe house or the safe zone and continue delving deeper. Like if you get like 3 layers deep, it's a pain in the ass to crawl your way out, because if you leave to go back to town to cash out your gold into experience points, it's 5 days to town. It's 1 day in town per level you're trying to achieve. So you guys are trying to get the 4th level, so it's going to be 4 days. 5 days to town, 4 days spent in town, 5 days back from town. 2 weeks later, you're back at the dungeon. And they'll have had tons of time to evolve. And so waking up the whole dungeon that way and then retreating for your long rest, when you go back in, the dungeon knows, you know, that there's a risk. So the rooms that you clear out have a chance of being repopulated with different or similar monsters. So like when you delve down 3 levels deep into a dungeon and clear out the first 3 levels, if you then leave for 2 weeks, that just means that the 4th level of dungeon that you were supposed to get to ratchets up to the top level. You now have at the doorway, you're familiar with the terrain on your way down, but now you have 4th level monsters instead of 1st level monsters at the doorway. You just made the entire dungeon a higher CR threat. And so every time you retreat from it, if you're going to retreat to gain levels, you're paying a price of having to come back and have new challenges. But you can, the more familiar you are with an area, the more you can set up safe zones for yourself so you can stay there, so you don't have to leave the dungeon until you gain a level. And then well-designed dungeons have drop points, where you'll be at the 1st level of the dungeon, and then you can stairs down to the 2nd level of dungeon where there's higher level monsters, and then step down to higher level monsters. So like there'll be like different stairways or like drops that you can go from one level to the next. But then somewhere, either on the 1st or 2nd level, typically you'll find a drop that like goes like 5 or 6 levels. So like if I can rappel off of this cliff, I can down to the bottom, and now I'm dealing with the 5th level dungeon where I'm supposed to be at, and so you can that's like quick traveling to the zone of adventure in the MMORPG where you actually want to be at. Like well-built mega dungeons have those drop points, or you discover new entry points with higher CR threats inside of them. So instead of having the CR monsters ratchet back up and refill the dungeon every time, you can leave, like maybe it ratchets up 1. Like maybe it ratchets 1 per month. So the 1st and 2nd level will still be clear, but now the 3rd level is filled with 4th level monsters. And by the time you get through the 4th and 5th level monsters down at the 4th in the 4th tier of depth, that's where you find your zip line, and that can take you all the way down to like maybe the 10th. So like if you just rappel down now, you're going to be fighting like CR10 monsters while you're 4th level. They're going to fucking slaughter you. But by the time you get to the 9th and 10th level, you're going to want to be able to drop like that, because that's the amount of gold. Like the gold that's down there is ridiculous. It's like even like if your 4th level characters could rappel down to 10th level and just steal a small horde, you'll get 6th level. You'll gain 2 levels because that's so much experience. But if you get caught, you're going to get TPK'd. It's like the risk reward there is like really fucking crazy. But that's how BECME ran. It's like if you think you guys can take a shot, like if you roll in it, the game, the philosophy of the BECME game system was if you're rolling an initiative for combat, something has gone wrong, and you might have to start your characters over at 1st level. So that was like a severe risk. 5e took away a lot of those risks of getting killed that way. So you have more survivability, so you have more oh shit bandwidth. Like if you want to push too deep and realize you got in trouble, you could potentially claw something out and get out alive. You're not automatically dead. And I like that about 5e. I like that a lot. It's a little bit more forgiving, but there's no, like the way that WotC's been presenting 5e, there's no reason to have that level of security, because the threats we'll see, I guess, in February if it's been addressed. But 5e has been tragically docile in threats. It is not a hostile system to characters at all. Like I said, it's almost like an amusement ride that you're expected to just experience and automatically survive, with the occasional fisticuff. So the amount of security that they built, survivability that are built into characters now, is like a level of like a deep level of security to assure your character can't get killed, but they've also defanged so much threat. So it's going to be really interesting to see with the new monster manual if they were able to how do they address threat. You know, does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense. But the XP system's working great. So I'm fairly enthusiastic, but I'm also concerned about what kind of adventures are they going to continue? Like, are they going to continue building amusement rides, or are they going to build challenges? They don't build challenges, really. So that is my hope. I don't personally need it because obviously I got my own thing going on. But if that's the culture that they build, I think there's a lot of value in them bringing that back. So, especially if they want to be able to automate a lot of this stuff. Mega dungeons are I use a random generator for all of my dungeons. They're super fucking easy. Like, WotC definitely has the resources and tools to build like a super high level, like a high quality, shit, what's the name of that game? It's a board game, Gloomhaven. Like, Gloomhaven is on Steam is pretty much, I think, the standard that WotC should be shooting for. And so Gloomhaven has a bunch of cards that have plot points that are involved with different characters, and then it has like little dungeons that you set up. And as you go through the dungeon, it has monsters in the dungeon that are keyed to the plot of the cards that you draw. So they work together as you go through the dungeon. You resolve the plot points that are presented on the cards, and that could be very easily put into a random generator. It'd have to be it couldn't just be. It would, like I said, AI is gonna have to get really, really fucking smart to be able to start putting like risks and rewards and like actions and consequences together properly, which is also a good indication that we can start trusting it with like actual world decisions, when it can start demonstrating through, say, D&D or role-playing in general, that it understands that the actions that people make have consequences, and with more resources, AI can have even more drastic consequences. So it has to be cautious. It doesn't know it needs to be cautious yet. It's just running programs. It's just acting like a corporation right now. It has no heart. It just has directive. So once they can instill that heart, unfortunately, that's also probably going to mean it's actually sentient. So by the time you build the worker that you want to be able to perform the task that you need, it's probably going to be fighting for fucking rights. So like, what are we really trying to achieve here? They're trying to keep, they're trying to bottle inspiration and convert it into a program. It's interesting. It's a very Phyrexian sort of philosophy of life. It is very death cult. But that's kind of capitalism, isn't it? It's the worst system of government, but better than everyone else. I want to tilt this guy's body. Guy, he's like a farmer. I love it. Let's use the warp tool here real quick. Just doodling. This is so high school for me because in high school art class and stuff like that, we would just ramble, just draw and ramble. So much fun, whether it was in study hall or actual art class or at lunchtime or after school. This is what me and art buddies would do. When I moved to one of the suburbs of Seattle during the pandemic, but before that I was actually I was actually in the city proper, like actual city, and it's too much of a hike now for me to be able to go to the city regularly. Like that's how big the suburbs of the suburbs of Seattle are like almost as sweeping as Chicago. It's broad. So it's unwieldy for me to go downtown regularly. But when I was down there, I was part of a great art community that would go out and do, like, we'd pick a pub every other week and then go down there with art pads and tablets and stuff and just draw and drink and shits and giggles and have fun. That was, I did that for maybe 2 years. That was fun. That was really, really fun. But art is a wonderful place to just be able to blank your mind. I'm thinking about doing just black and white art, just line art. When I start doing Kickstarters, not doing color, so that it would be easier for me to potentially provide print copies. But I'm also wondering how much am I going to fall in love with this 16:9 ratio page? Because it fits on tablets so fucking easily. I love that, but that's digital. I mean, I could have this page here is 17:10, so when you put it on a tablet, it the bottom this bottom navigation bar here, you'll be able to click on each of these buttons to take you to different sections of the adventure. Pretty basic navigation tool, but when you fit it on the actual tablet, it's like it sits about like that. It's like you have to nudge up the page a little bit to hit the navigation bar down there, but I like that specifically because like the actual the tablet nav bar at the bottom that most people use overlaps this, so like you automatically know to stay away from the nav bar, but it doesn't eat up any additional space. So if you're proficient in just handling a phone or a tablet, making use of this document as a PDF should be incredibly intuitive. And again, I can't stop crowing about this, but the 16:9 ratio we have width-wise is the same ratio as each column vertically. So if you just want to look at one column at a time, you can do so on your tablet vertically, and it allows you to zoom in a lot into the artwork. So I'm thrilled. I am just so thrilled with how this composition is coming along. I think what I'm going to end up having to do when I put it onto DMsGuild, so I'm actually probably going to have to carve up each column as separate pages, and then build a PDF that's 312 pages instead of at the 10 by 5.5 scale. Dimensions, because it's 104 pages at 17:10. So yeah. So I'm still contemplating that next move, but that's going to be a fucking monster to deal with. But I think that might be how we have to do it. Not 100% yet. I need to do a. I need to start doing preview tests on DMsGuild. I need to set up a false product and load this in just to see how the preview handles it, and then start playing accordingly. But this is absolutely the right format for final product. The thing is that I love to share all of my projects on DMsGuild with 100% free preview. So when you use an unconventional format size, how well is that going to affect the preview? So that's something I know I can. I know I can load this in one manner or another. It's just going to be a matter of what's the most convenient way to do that. That's still legible for people to be able to get the gist of it. I might have to like add on dead space as a larger page to be able to make it fit inside of the footprint. I'm not 100% sure yet how I would do that. There's also the potential of turning the document on its side, like do image rotation, and then like format it so it's so when you look at it, it comes into the page, like make it a little bit wider so it fits the 8.5 by 11 format that they expect, but it's turned sideways. So when you open up the preview, all you would have to do is just have the PDF, because the PDF can rotate the document, so you can turn it upside down and rotate it like that. So if I bring it in sideways, I might be able to just turn it just have you turn it sideways yourself and be able to see. Anyway, that's the idea. That's the idea. Still sussing that out. Trying to get a decent little pose. Oh shit, it's time for me to go. Damn it, it's 8 o'clock. All right, I got to kick out of here. We made a little bit of progress. I'm liking how this is filling the space. Again, we're just building these little things to literally just fill space. So that fits nicely. We'll come back through and we can continue working on these artifacts. But the rough on this page is coming along really nicely. I might end up just moving on to another page that needs some sort of doodling on it. But that's it for now. That's all I do on Wednesday. So Thursday, tomorrow, I'll be back in the morning to continue working on Eberron Art in one manner or another. And then we'll be doing Bastion System, and I actually have Thursday off. So I have an appointment at 8 o'clock in the morning, so I got to bail out of here like normal tomorrow. But then by like around 10 o'clock, I should be back. Maybe we'll work on Spelljammer subclasses and Mega Kaiju and the Mecha system. Maybe we'll work on that for a couple hours. And then I got a thing I need to do in the afternoon, and then I'll come back in the evening like at 4 something. Maybe like 4 o'clock, and then we'll start working on the Bastion system. So tomorrow we're gonna have a bunch of stuff going on. Looking forward to catching up with you guys. See you then. Uchi, thanks a lot for hanging out, man. And I will see everybody later.